Okay, so this video is going to be about writing an extended essay in world studies and how to get an A in that. I haven't gotten my final IB assessed grades, but my predicted grade for my EE is an A. So I'm going to give some of my tips and advice for writing the EE. So first of all, you want to think of what subject areas you want to write about, and actually you could, instead of jumping straight to the subjects, think about topics in general that you might have already come across that you're interested in, that you've read about or something like that, and then see where that would fit in. But if you have particular subjects that you're good at or you enjoy, and you wouldn't mind writing this long 4,000 word essay about, then that's good as well. And the world studies essay is 2 subjects, so keep that in mind too. I did economics and geography, and those are 2 of my HL subjects, which I they're 2 of my favorites. So that was how I chose mine. And then you have to think about what topics you want, and it has to be an issue of global significance. So I got these from this website, but these are the IB themes that you can choose. So your topic has to fit into one of these. So my one was health and development, and it was about non-communicable diseases and trade and how they link together and stuff. So that fit into this one, but obviously, as you can see, there's lots of different categories and themes that you could choose, and a lot of different topics can fit into each of these. So just make sure that before even writing and planning, you have these solid subjects, the topic, and the themes. And you also have to think of your research question, and that has to be a question that is specific to what you're going to discuss. It can't be broad, it has to be specific, and it has to have the keywords of your topics included in it, so that these are the 4 really important starting points for your world studies essay, and basically any essay. But world studies is a bit different in that you have different subjects and these themes. And then you have to start your planning and your research. So a lot of the time, if you look online and search EE plan or EE layout, template, structure, stuff like that, there'll be a lot of different examples. And even on the IB website, you'll see a lot of EE examples for each of the subjects. So those are really good to look at just in terms of planning and knowing the sections. It's often you'll have introduction, and then you'll have some sort of background information, then you'll introduce your research and your analysis, and maybe involve some diagrams and data, and then you'll have a conclusion and evaluation, and then of course your bibliography at the end. So that's the general structure, but of course it differs for different subjects, and I'm just speaking from doing an economics and geography essay, but that's the general layout. So you can find a lot of those online, different examples and everything of past EEs and things like that. And there's lots of websites as well that have useful information. And you also are, before writing your essay, of course, doing your research. So this is a really, really important thing to do, because this is even relevant before you come up with the topic, because even if you have a topic that's really interesting, you want to make sure that there is some kind of data out there that you can analyze. The more data you have, that's there's a large amount of data, and it's relatively recent and reliable and things like that. Of course, it doesn't have to be perfect, because we're all just high school students and we don't have access to the most amazing data online, and you can mention that in your evaluation as well. But just having a good enough set of data that you can answer the question and discuss enough, you want to have a good amount of data that can be used to explore the question, and that you can even analyze itself and evaluate itself. So whilst you're doing research, I would recommend to definitely take note of the websites you're using. Like if you're making notes as you're reading things, make sure you put the website there, just because when you're doing citations and all of that, it's just so much easier when you already have the website there, or the source, or the link, or anything like that. It's just good to have it there with your like research document of just a bunch of different things or data, because if you don't do that, you're gonna like probably struggle and waste time later trying to do so. And another important part of the EE is doing your reflections, and I think you have to do I honestly don't remember. Do you even do reflections for the EE? Why do I not remember this? Okay, so there are reflections. I don't know why I forgot that there were reflections, but you have your first one, and then interim, and then your like final concluding reflection. And there's word limits on each of those, and they do count towards your grade, and that means they have to be like detailed, and they have to show like that you're thinking about the EE, and you're like adapting things if you need to, and you're researching and everything like that, and you're planning. So that's honestly not anything too difficult, and it's honestly just saying what you've been doing and what you're planning to do, and in the end it's like looking back on things you did well, things you might improve, things like that. So that's quite a simple part of the EE in my opinion. And then you, alongside all of this, while you're writing your EE, you'll have I think three supervisor meetings. So you'll have an EE supervisor who kind of guides you through your EE writing process and will give you some like pointers and advice and things. Or I would say definitely take advantage of those. And I've heard that like sometimes people aren't necessarily like happy with their supervisor, or they just don't feel like connected to the supervisor. Luckily for me, my supervisor was actually a teacher that I'd had for like quite a long time, so it was just like really convenient, and it worked out really well, and it was easy to talk and things like that. But sometimes when you have a new teacher or someone you're not familiar with, it can be kind of difficult in some ways. But just as much as you can, try to take advantage of the meetings, and before them definitely write down questions you want to ask, or make bullet points of things you're wondering whilst you're doing your EE outside of the meetings, because that's just a really good time. And whilst you're having the meetings, just have like somewhere to write or type whatever your supervisor is saying, or record the meeting. That's really good too, because you can just listen back and you won't forget anything, because they give you a lot of important advice. So yeah, just take advantage of those. And then finally, for your citations, this is a really good website, which it's like the only thing I use throughout the IB for doing citations. You can choose like the type of citations, and you just paste the link into the thing, and it like does it all for you. It's really good, and it just makes the whole job easier, and it saves everything, so you can just copy and paste the whole bibliography once you're at the end of your extended essay, once you're done writing it, basically. So that's a really good resource. But yeah, okay, now I'm just gonna give a bit of like personal advice for how I, why I think I did well on the EE. One thing is that I chose something that I was really interested in, and that was, trade and disease, and how they linked, like how economic things could impact social things, and how development and health like are in different countries. And I compared different countries, or not countries, different areas within a country of different development. Like that's something, it might not sound interesting to other people, but to me it was like just something that I was already curious about. So just make sure it's something that you're genuinely just curious about already, because it just makes it so much more easy. Like for me, when I was doing my EE, I honestly didn't feel like it was a heavy task to do, because I just enjoyed it, and I loved the like process of just researching and finding differing arguments and things like that. So yeah, and then another thing is just to manage your time well. I know that in the IB it's stressful, but my whole thing throughout the IB has been just like trying to do things as soon as you can, and just, getting started as early as possible and trying to finish it. I always kind of think like whenever the deadline is, I kind of set an earlier deadline like mentally, because that just allows me to know that if anything does happen, if I need to suddenly change anything, I will have time to do that and I'm not like doing last minute things. And it just makes you feel so much more relaxed that way. So that's another tip, just time management, setting deadlines, like, and setting apart time for research, planning, and things like that. Yeah, that's kind of my main advice. And also in terms of like world studies in particular, just make sure that you're like really showing that you're linking the two subjects together. Don't just talk about each of them and then not link them. Like, you have to bring them together in a way and make it quite explicit, like that you're like using the two subjects in combination to come to like this really good conclusion. Like, it has to be in the case that you couldn't just do it with one subject, and you have to show that like this topic wouldn't be able to just be explored from one perspective. It has to be two perspectives. And yeah, that's also good to kind of mention in your conclusion and evaluation, everything, just showing that this has just been a really like valuable experience to be able to have the two subjects rather than just one, because it is a really interesting like essay to be able to write and have the opportunity to do two subjects. And yeah. Oh no. No. Okay, that's all.